Hello, everyone, and welcome to Road to Recovery, Flattening Out the Curve. I'm Robert Claybrook, Chief Technology Officer here at MicroStrategies, and I'm joined by Juan Nunez, our Director of our Analytics Practice. Today, we are talking about the road to recovery and how we flatten the curve to achieve results more quickly. There are many challenges that we're all facing today, and we're going to focus on a real and practical example around AIOps, which can drive results given the challenges we all face. So Juan, you want to kick us off?
Well, when we're talking about flattening the curve and the recovery that we're going towards, is the first thing that comes to mind is where are we going, right? And I think what we're looking for and what we've been talking about is really to enable ourselves to be competitive and flexible, and what we're able to still operate our business, look for ways to improve the ways in which we're delivering customer value. Now, as we think about that, there's going to be some roadblocks, and some of those roadblocks that we've been dealing with have to do with the complexity around technology, how it continues to increase. And Bob, you've talked a lot about how to enable ourselves to limit or to deal with that complexity that exists.
I think, Juan, I think what it is I start with business resiliency, right? So, or business continuity, whatever you want to say. As complexity has increased with the applications that we utilize today, especially with the remote workforce, I don't think we're going to get away from that. It's going to be a hybrid work environment go forward. So just looking at the environment and the services that we need to provide, talent shortages and things as we have there on the screen, it is hard to monitor the solutions that we utilize in our technology portfolio, and we're really looking to maintain that level of discipline. Before, we were all in a corporate office, a little bit more straightforward, controlled environment. Now we're all over the place, right? So, and many more of us. So I think that, from my perspective, it's how do we use the data to provide that resiliency or that continuity or agility, whatever word you want to use. So is that's my perspective anyway.
And we're not dealing just with the internal complexities, right? The people aspects of it and the technology aspects of it. There's those external factors around security, the constant and increasing security threats.
Yes.
that we need to account for. And you were talking about data. We think about data in these two major categories. It's the data about your business and the data about your processes. And that's where we start to think about, okay, how can we leverage the data about our processes to start to correct or help ourselves in some of these areas where we're going to be challenged, and we have been challenged. For example, talent shortages. How can we learn and observe our systems and leverage that information to then be smarter about how we operate?
So Juan, what are the three basic things you always say when we talk about AIOps and getting there? You start with observability. Just walk folks through what from your three main bullet points there.
Yeah, and I think those three things we think about is, first, we have to be able to observe the space in which we're working. So when we're talking about that infrastructure data or the data about our processes, how do we observe our environments and collect this very, very large amounts of data? And how do we use advanced analytics, machine learning, and deep learning processes to be able to extract information so that then we can go and automate some action to be able to correct these things. And we're going to get a little bit deeper into that, but at a high level, those are some of the things we consider.
So we observe, and we already have automation. I'm not sure that we have the degree of automation that we need, but we do have automation in the environment. So it's the observability, or creating the observability, is understanding the data, all the new data sources we have as we digitize the businesses that we operate. Again, adding that complexity, and now it's really taking action, right? From an AI perspective.
And I think a key component of that is to move from reacting to things that are happening in our environment, to getting ahead of those things,
Right.
to be more predictive about the way we interact with our environment, so that we can limit the stoppages that are going to be on this road.
And then it takes us back to quality of service or business continuity, resiliency, agility, and all those things. So it allows us to provide our technology portfolio of solutions at a steady state as business continues to change. And it's a very challenging world, but if we're able to accomplish some of those things, it does help us, so to say, flatten the curve, so to speak, or take the bumps out of the road. So, Juan, do you have anything else for today, or because I know we want to pass it on to a couple folks in the micro team to dive a little deeper?
Yeah, let's dive a little deeper.
Okay. So with Juan and I today, we have Jason Jolley, Director of Application Development, and Bill Shay, one of our enterprise architects here at Micro, and they're going to do a little deeper dive on AIOps and how they utilize it in their day-to-day operations here at Micro and for our clients.
Hey, thanks, Bob. Thanks, Juan. So I really liked what you guys were saying about interacting with our environment, responding to changing business needs, and how do we use AIOps to help with that, and leading development teams and trying to deploy solutions. What I really care about is just getting the features that our customers want to them as quickly as possible. But with that, I also want to make our developers' lives easy, our sysadmins easy, all the roles that we have in the company, make their lives easier at the same time. And I don't want to get in trouble doing all this. So I want to make sure we're secure. I want to make sure that we're not going crazy with our costs or cloud costs or anything like that. And I want to make sure we're abiding by our best practices. So when we looked at AIOps, and there's a wealth of material out there, we decided what we wanted to focus on is how do we do everything that we're doing good today and just do it better. So part of that is we put some bullets up here to talk through, but getting that fast feedback so that when we deploy things, we get customer feedback. Obviously, that's very important. But then there's a lot of other feedback we can get about all these systems that we're integrating. We're dealing with a very complex hybrid environment. I mean, we push on-premise or in cloud, any of the major cloud vendors. We've got all different types of programming languages. We're using Kubernetes and containers, bare metal, et cetera. So there's a lot of interaction there that makes this a bit more complex. But we still have the same security issues. We have to be on top of that. We have to manage cost. So having the fast feedback about everything that's happening in those systems, it becomes very important. And then streamlining those so that we know when we run an application and we push it out, we may not have to manually tap every persona involved in that whole deployment equation to be able to say, hey, Bill, can you make sure the network is handled for that and load balancing set up and et cetera. AIOps allows us to streamline a lot of that just based off the data of what's happening and then act on that. And that makes it so much easier for our teams to coordinate, and it becomes less siloed. And we have the more knowledge sharing, we can send those things back and forth much easier. At the same time, by doing that, we can resolve issues quicker. We can have issues that are detected automatically, and then it can be acted upon immediately. And some of the things that we like to talk about a lot is how do we manage that from when we know it from a manual processes standpoint, how do we do it automatically? And how do we govern that we're doing it correctly so that we know somebody's not going crazy with whatever system they're doing. They're not leaving wide open security. They're not going nuts with it. One of those key things that we look at, amongst others, is cost management, because we know that it's very important for us to be able to experiment with the different services we're doing, do it quickly so that we can get the feedback we need and then be able to adjust and push out. But we also know that it's very easy for people to go crazy and leave some kind of very expensive cloud package running, and then what happens is we get a phone call later on about this massive bill that we could have avoided if we were actually keeping track and not relying on somebody just to take a look. And I know Bill.
not looking at the history, waiting for something to happen, and looking at backwards, right? So really, as you mentioned, there's so much more data points and so much more complexity to the data that we're trying to observe and monitor and weed out what are the key pieces of data that we should be looking at, and helping or leveraging AI and machine learning to do some of that, and also kind of identify and maybe even predict when there's going to be some challenges coming up based on some data points that should be there that aren't there, or things like that. So
Yeah,
very,
yeah, and honestly, it's fantastic because the stuff that I know that's been worked on that we can leverage, taking that data and then exposing it when we have one app that's running across cloud vendors, it's truly hybrid, and we can get a full picture of the cost of that, right? And then be alerted when it goes crazy.
and be alerted before you get the bill, right? So you
Right.
can kind of see that, hey, your cost of your compute is going up on a daily average 3 times what you're used to paying, right? So things like that.
Yep. Yeah, and then the fact that because we have that data, we can even automatically shut something down if we wanted to. We can dynamically just watch the environments and know that we have strong times where it's a bit more expensive and lighter times when it's not, and the predictive analysis that has been done is just fantastic for that.
Right. Yep. So leveraging machine learning and helping create the complex data, make it a little more simpler to digest is a fun part of our jobs, right?
Yeah, it is. It is. I mean, it's pretty cool, right? When you think about it, because we use all this data to help make it so much easier and seamless, and at the same time, it protects me. I know for sure, because then there's not that call, 2 months too late about wow, what happened there.
Right.
It's
Exactly.
handled automatically, which is really, really nice. So I guess we're going to pull back in Bob and Juan to try to sum up. Thanks, guys, for hopping back.
No, thank you. I think it was terrific as you guys were talking through the flexibility that we need to enable for ourselves to be able to continue to deliver business value, as well as leveraging all this rich data to be able to observe our environment, use advanced analytics to identify opportunities for improvement, and then use automation to help us maintain those environments and help us take care of the place where we're working. So thank you so much for walking through that and for everyone's participation today.
Hey, thank you.
Thank you, guys. Appreciate it. Thank you, everyone, for attending today or listening in. This is just one example of how to achieve real practical results as we look to flatten the curve. So again, please reach out if you'd like to discuss the topic, or if there are other topics you'd like to discuss. We're here for you. There's several other things we could cover. And again, thank you for your time.